Welcome to the Cigar Thoughts broadcast. We're live here at the Glow Nightclub in downtown Bellingham. I want to say a huge thank you to Evan and Joe for having us. Here to talk about a big win and a home stretch for a Seahawks team that all of a sudden has some life in their playoff, in their playoff hopes that they haven't had in a while. So I'm joined this week by Matt Nichols, who is a former all-conference offensive lineman at Pacific Lutheran University. Helped him win national championship there. He's got a really keen football eye, as if you haven't checked out the show yet, you'll learn soon. Matt, good to have you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
It's a big win. It was an expected win. What were your main takeaways from it?
The thing I loved seeing initially from the game is Seattle comes out, forces them to punt. We get the ball, march down, touchdown. Get the ball back, march down, touchdown. Get the ball back. Two penalties, they don't really hurt us, touchdown. They came out and executed an incredibly diverse game plan. They didn't know that they weren't going to have Lynch until before the game. Thomas Rawls steps in, gets a ton of carries, is very explosive with them. Russell Wilson, after coming off that really shaky game against Arizona, in which people were questioning his motives going to Mexico, taking pictures, doing all of that, where's his head, he comes back, and in that first half, I think he's 13 for 14, and the one that he misses is the one to Curse that goes off his hands right on the sidelines. That, not a great throw, but one that we've seen Curse come up with a lot of times. He was razor sharp. His first 14 completions went to 8 different receivers. They had a game plan of spreading them out and hitting him in the mouth, and Seattle executed it beautifully.
Yeah,
I loved seeing Rawls again come in and just be kind of that spark where you saw him running guys over on the sidelines, and the Hawks that are on the sidelines, you see them just exploding with enthusiasm because they're so happy and excited. And this team is an emotional team. This is an incredibly emotional team, and they ride on momentum. So if they can get that kind of feeling good, dancing, we're all right mentality back, and then really believe it, it's going to be a momentum carrier that can help them with a great second or half run.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. Doug Baldwin today was talking, I believe, with Jason Puckett on KJR, and he had some comment about leaving some plays out on the field, and people took it to be a criticism of Wilson or Bevel, and what he said today is, no, that wasn't the case, but what's missing this year has been enthusiasm. Yeah. And I thought that was really interesting. That's not something you hear many players admit to, is that our enthusiasm isn't what it's been. But to your point, it's an organic thing, right? Like, you can only muster so much. When you spend this much time with the people in that locker room as they do, you can tell what's genuine and what isn't, and what you're doing just to try and get people going versus like true emotion. And there's this one play, you guys all know immediately what I'm talking about. Thomas Rawls catches a swing pass to the right. First of all, really athletic catch, was actually thrown behind him.
Yep.
And he turned upfield and just destroyed a 49ers defender down the sideline, sent him somersaulting, hurdled over him, and there's this great picture taken from the end zone of Rawls hurtling over the 49ers defender, and you see the Seahawks sideline behind him, and they're just losing their shit.
Yeah, Alvin Bailey got the biggest, even the ball boy in that picture is fantastic.
And that's that organic enthusiasm that it's going to take to beat teams that aren't the 49ers. Yeah. I think that, you hit on the fact that this is Wilson's, let's be honest, this is his best game of the season.
Beautiful in this game.
He was really good.
Fantastic.
He had 3 touchdowns before he had 3 incompletions in this game, which I thought was really remarkable.
And what did Pro Football Focus say? He really had only 1 true incompletion where he wasn't throwing it away or being pressured. He really only missed on one guy all game long.
Yeah, and
they had a lot of offensive plays. I mean, he threw it, 26 times? Something right around there.
Yeah, I'm not a huge proponent of PFF's stats for the most part, but one thing they chart that I do really like are true QB accuracy, right?
Exactly.
They count it as a QB completion if it hits the receiver in the hands. They don't hold throwaways or spikes against them. I think it gives you kind of a truer idea of their performance. And And he was awesome, even by traditional rating stats. I mean, this is third highest rated game of his career.
Yeah.
I think if Kearse catches that pass, it would have made it the highest of Wilson's career, except for the Buffalo game in 2012. So anyway, let's say that it was as good a Russell Wilson as we've
Absolutely.
seen. So my question to you is, to what degree is that him being better? To what degree is that them being able to stay on script? To what degree Thomas Rawls have to do with that? In your mind, what was the biggest difference between the Russell Wilson that we saw last Sunday night and the Russell Wilson we saw this past Sunday afternoon?
I think really it's being able to stay on script without penalties. Penalties take a game plan completely out. Everything that you've worked on, certain plays that you've prepared for, situational, what you want to do on first and second down, that whole script has to go out the window when it's 1st and 20 and 1st and 25, and we beat that into a dead horse. We beat that dead horse last week. But it really made a huge difference. They were consistently able, those first 2 drives, no penalties. Third drive, small penalties, but able to overcome both of them. The ability to stay on time, on rhythm, was huge. I think the other thing, Seattle does not have a Antonio Bryant receiver or a Dez or any of those guys that are just the top of their game. But when all of their receivers are catching balls and you can't take away a certain guy, or if you are going to take away a certain guy, it means that everybody else will be open. This is a very explosive and dynamic offense. And not explosive in that it's going to put 500 yards up a game consistently, but explosive in that it can be 4 plays touchdown. They are an explosive 12-yard run play, 20-yard pass play, especially when they get, again, that momentum going. Tyler Lockett was another reason for this, not only just Rawls, but Tyler with 2 of those nice touchdown plays. Baldwin with a little swing out there on the sidelines, and 49er defenders look like they've given up a little bit, and he just takes advantage of it as opposed to stepping out of bounds. So you saw some of those organic, natural enthusiasms, and quite honestly, growing up, I always believed this, and I had a football coach in college verbalize it. Motivational speeches before a game will honestly get you through the first play of the game, and then after that, whatever the hell the coach said, it doesn't matter for the remaining 59 minutes and 45 seconds of the game. Because quite honestly, nobody remembers that. But if you have true enthusiasm, that will carry you through a game. Fake enthusiasm that I'm tougher than you, I'm better than you, that crap falls out of place as soon as you get hit in the mouth and you get knocked down. It's, do you have the ability, the enthusiasm, the heart to get up off of your ass and to keep going? And you saw some of those things from Rawls, where he is not going to run out of bounds like Sean Alexander did consistently. And I thought Sean Alexander was a fantastic running back.
Me too.
Very good. But his style is very different than that. Going back to the
Sean Alexander played running back like he had a life in football in mind afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thomas Rawls doesn't play football that way. Yeah.
No, he plays like a guy out of Flint, Michigan, as he's been saying in the media all week. Going back to the Marshawn versus Rawls thing, we saw Marshawn get 9 carries on the first play of the drive versus the 49ers down in San Francisco and absolutely run wild that game. He was coming off an injury. Everyone is thinking, is Marshawn done? Is it Marshawn done? And then he comes out, makes jump cuts in the middle of a hole that absolutely annihilate 49er defenders. So it was good to see both of their running backs be able to do that. But they were really exciting to see Rawls with some of those chunk yardage runs. Yeah. And then the enthusiasm, again, from the guys rallying around him.
Yeah, you mentioned Lockett, too, and we'll spend plenty of time talking about Rawls because it'd be an injustice not to. But all 4 touchdowns were scored by rookies.
Yeah.
And, there's been this idea that, when Pete Carroll and John Schneider first came here, they knocked their first 3 drafts out of the park. I mean, we might not see a 3-year stretch like that from one team for another decade.
Yeah.
Then 2013, 2014, they haven't seen the returns on the draft class that they had before, and we've talked about before. It's a harder roster to make. They don't need as many starters, yada yada. It's going to be harder to find those guys. But what we saw were 2 players from this class, one drafted, one not. One higher end pick that is paying off in Tyler Lockett early. I think he's already justified his draft spot just as a returner. But the fact that he is developing the type of receiver that he has is really, really encouraging because it's hard to. You have to be so exceptional as a returner to justify where he was picked.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the 60s somewhere. But if you can be a receiver on top of that, all of a sudden that's a great deal of value. And receiver is a pretty steep learning curve at the NFL level, right? Because every receiver who makes it to the NFL can get open in college. And getting open
by a wide
on
margin.
Yeah. That doesn't happen in the NFL hardly ever.
Yeah.
And the ability to get open on time is so much more important because the quarterback is going through his reads faster, doesn't have as much time, yada yada. So I was thinking, okay, we've seen some nice plays from Tyler Lockett. What are the numbers when Russell Wilson's targeting him? So I went through and I looked, and he's been targeted 33 times this year. Russell Wilson has completed 25 of those, so that's almost 76%. Yep. He has 308 yards, which is 9.3 yards per attempt, which would put you at the top of the NFL if you did that all the time. Both of those numbers would. 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Yeah. That's a quarterback rating of 121.8. So basically equivalent to the highest quarterback rating for a season in NFL history. Yeah. Now, of course, if he could do that with 250 targets, now you're talking about a Julio Jones, Antonio Bryant type player, or Brown. And maybe he becomes that. But for a rookie, to be able to pick your spots with a guy like that, and that's not counting at least 3 missed touchdowns from Russell Wilson to him this year. I think that what we're looking at is a guy that can be a true difference maker, a la a T.Y. Hilton or a Randall Cobb or a John Brown over in Arizona type of receiver where, Antonio Brown is the ceiling for someone with a guy who's built like Tyler Lockett. It's impossible to expect that. I think his ceiling's somewhere close to that. But if you can just get a guy that is difficult to cover and that for 5 times a game you can trust a throw his way, that's huge from a rookie. And, his first touchdown was the type of touchdown that we expect to see Tyler Lockett do. Beat his guy down the seam, find a soft spot in the defense, kind of a speed and quickness type touchdown. His second one is the one I'm really excited about. Here you go, young blood. Here's the ball. You got 6 yards to go with 3 defenders in between. See what you can do. And he got in that elevator and pushed his way into the end zone. I mean, it was amazing. It was a combination of elusiveness, speed, power. He got low. He took advantage of the fact that he's little. That's one of the things that people don't talk about with the really good small receivers, and Edelman is the one I keep coming back to. Is it's not just that he's sneaky and runs around your ankles. He takes advantage of the fact that he's low and will push through guys for an extra 3 yards, and we saw that from Tyler Lockett. So I think that if that's something that's repeatable, that gives them not only a game-breaking type weapon, but something in short yardage. You see so many teams go with screen passes inside the 10-yard line. Seattle doesn't do that because they don't have any receivers that they trust to get through those defenders. But they did it, and Tyler Lockett rewarded them with the touchdown. I like that so much better than a fade route to a small receiver in the end zone, which is what they've always defaulted to. So I thought that was really, really encouraging, and I got to think that that's the type of thing that can spark a team.
Yeah, and I think there was another play that I thought that I really enjoyed watching him was second half. I think it's second half. Read option. Russell keeps the ball, starts rolling to his left. Jimmy Graham is there, but 2 defenders are there, and it's a total keep by Russell the whole time. He flips around, and Lockett has stayed right at the line of scrimmage. Russell throws it over to him. Baldwin and Kershaw are on the backside blocking. It was very Oregon offense-esque, where it was read 1, nope, not doing it. Read 2, I'm keeping the ball. Uh-oh, guys are here. There's a read 3 on the backside or Jimmy on the front side. And it was really the evolution of that offense. And for Lockett to wait the 3 seconds in which that play develops, but to just stay in his position, wait to see and not give up on a play was really good. Because a lot of times you'll see people on the backside of plays just basically check out of the game and pay no attention to it. But for him to stay actively engaged with it was really neat. Going back to that first play, if people are able to go back and see the film, Sam Fran comes out in a cover 1. They're sending a guy on a blitz, and Lockett just beats his guy from the get-go. Very reminiscent to his touchdown in the preseason, where he had beaten the guy within 3 steps, and it was over. If teams are not going to put a safety over top of him, that is something that's going to happen if they're going to play bump and run coverage, because he's already shown the ability to get open quickly,
Yeah.
which a lot of rookie wide receivers in the NFL aren't able to do. Last year in the NFL was an anomaly with the Odell Beckhams and the guys that are just like, this is, it was unreal.
That skewed expectations
that's exactly
for the next few wide receiver classes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was an amazing class. Mike Evans, Kelvin Benjamin, that was
just sick freaks.
That's crazy.
So
Watkins, Bryant.
So for Lockett to be able to have that kind of take the top off of a defense speed that's now on film and on recent film for defenses to have to worry about, it's just one more thing that a coordinator and the safeties also are going to have to pay attention to. That first touchdown is he was lined up on they had three receivers to the right. Inside receiver runs a little in and out route. I believe it was Baldwin, and then it was two go routes on the outside. Lockett beats his guy with an inside move, I believe, up, and then it was Curse on the outside with an outside release. So they had beautiful spacing with it. But if he can show that he can beat a guy that is in bump, press, man coverage, there's going to have to be a safety over top, or else that whole deep post, skinny post, flag routes, corners, digs, all of that's going to be open for the Hawks playbook. And if those kind of things are open, it's just going to make all the underneath passes that much easier for them.
Yeah, I think that it's so hard. You know, we love to try and judge coordinators, play calling, etc. Right?
Yeah.
It's an easy criticism. It's a lazy criticism, but it's one that we all do because we all have that immediate good play, bad play reaction, right? Even though there's so many factors going in that we'll never be familiar with.
One of the things that drives me craziest is hearing people say that coordinators should be fired when they have no frame of reference.
Well,
like it's lazy, it's mentally weak, and it's dumb.
It is. Thank you. Because I
you don't say it, I will. I'll be blunt.
No, I actually, as a little aside, because I think it's worth talking about. As you know, I very rarely, and this is by design, very rarely get caught up in the result of a single play or even a single game or even a stretch of games. I try to see things through a fisheye lens, a wider scope. Yeah. And so I was thinking, I know that Bevel is under a ton of criticism this year. He always has been. I'm sure every offensive coordinator that isn't Josh McDaniels is under a ton of criticism week to week. But I've always felt like it didn't fit with Bevel because, the criticism against him are too many bubble screens or I don't like these plays or whatever. What we're not saying is that these are set up plays for later. And this year, Russell Wilson has missed on the plays that those have set up. Yeah. Those bubble screens aren't there to get 10 yards. Yeah. Those bubble screens are to get defenses moving forward, right? Absolutely. And then how many deep passes has he missed this year, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Anyway, but I knew that, from 2012 on that they had been good. So I was looking at by DVOA, which is how I prefer to measure overall efficiency. Last 4 years, the Seahawks have ranked 4th, 7th, 5th, and this year 9th. This year they are 9th in the NFL.
Absolutely.
In offensive DVOA. And I think that in this game what we saw was, okay, when we can stay on script, when you're not committing penalties and you're able to be in 2nd and 4, 3rd and 1 type positions, we saw the full playbook and we saw what it looks like when you can trust your rookie wide receiver to beat his man early. Yeah. When you can trust on Jimmy Graham winning position on a 3rd and 8 slant route. Mm-hmm. That kind of stuff it's like a personal trainer working with, a 55-year-old who's overweight and just trying to get in shape, or an athlete. You can do more stuff. Mm-hmm. And when you're not committing those mistakes and putting yourself behind the proverbial 8 ball, I think we see a truer idea of what a Darrell Bevel game plan looks like. And we just haven't been able to see that this season because the blocking's been so bad, because Wilson has looked gun-shy at times, because of all the penalties. And so I just thought that this was a nice reminder of, hey, this offense has been really, really good on a per-drive basis for 4 years, and we finally got to see that for an entire game. And it's interesting because I was going through and I was like, okay, all right, so each year they're good, And if you're unfamiliar with DVOA, I do encourage you to get at least cursory knowledge of it. It's a metric put together by Football Outsiders that takes into account game situation, right? So like they don't penalize you for a kneel down when you're winning, right?
Yeah.
You shouldn't be penalized as a loss of 1 yard rushing. That's it's not accurate. They don't. They consider the strength of the opponent that you're against, and they judge each play call based on how it affects win probability in your current situation. Okay, it's a good advanced way to look at overall football success. So I'm going through, and they rate it on a percentage basis. League average every year is 0. The other reason I like it is it's always relative to how the league is performing that year.
Exactly.
Because you can't compare era to era counting stats. You'll get lost. Then every player that's played in the last 10 years is the best ever, right?
Yeah.
So it's compared to how the rest of the league is doing at that time. And they give you a percentage rating, and usually the best are around 30 and the worst are around minus 30. It's very even. They've really dialed it in. And so I was going through and I was like, okay, since 2012, where does Seattle rank DVOA combined? If I took all of their plus and negative percentages for the last 4 years and stacked it against all the other teams. So it took a little bit of handwriting research during some downtime today, but I did it. And it goes Patriots, Packers, Broncos, Seahawks, Saints. So we're talking about Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, Russell Wilson,
and
Drew Brees. This is the type of offense on a per play basis that we're talking about. When you're complaining about the Seahawks offense, that's the offense you're complaining about.
The 4 other teams have Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
First ballot, no doubt.
That are pass happy offenses.
Yep.
It is easier to get chunk yardage in pass plays than it is in run plays.
Yep.
Seattle is the only one of those that is a truly balanced offense. The Broncos are giving more lip service to it this year because their quarterback can't throw it 15 yards. The Saints, the year they won the Super Bowl, actually had a good running game. Since then, it's been gone. So it's an incredible stat that really does show that they have taken a good group, not a phenomenal group of talent. I mean, again, where are the Pro Bowlers on Seattle's offense? Truly, or the All Pros? There's no All Pros. There's a couple of Pro Bowlers that they've had over this period of time, and they have taken this collection of undrafted wide receivers and made them a very, very good offense in the NFL.
Yeah, and they have, and you know, kind of one of the other arguments, not to belabor the point too much, but one of the other arguments is, well, they're just benefiting from a good defense that gives them good field position. Listen, 1992, the Seahawks had the best defense in the NFL, hands down, by DVOA, by every stance you want. They went 2-14. So you can talk about how the best defense in the NFL is just an easy cover for a bad offense. That ain't how it works, because the Seahawks have seen that 20 years ago. I mean, the Cortez Kennedy, Jacob Green era Seahawks were the best defense in the NFL statistically. They went 2-14. So, you know, I just moving forward, I want it to be known that when I talk about the Seahawks offense, I'm talking about when they are able to stay more or less on script. No one can stay on script all the time unless you're the Patriots. But other than that, you can more or less do it. And so,
again, it's not Darrell Bevel's fault that Luke Wilson gets a face mask penalty on a run play that gets him back 15 yards. It's not Darrell Bevel's fault that Russell Okung had a false start in this game, which took them probably from a fourth touchdown to a field goal.
And for every time that you want to say that Russell Wilson has bailed Darrell Bevel out by improvising on a broken play and making it happen, which no doubt he's been great at, you also have to criticize him for every time he bails too early before going through his reads and missing out on a play that's been set up by the game plan. So
this is a very good, again, because this is a balanced offense, it makes defense's game plan for everybody all around, where there's not a certain guy where you're like, oh, don't worry about him. You have to actually think about, okay, this guy occasionally will have a big game, or this game it was Doug Baldwin with a number of catches, Tyler Lockett with a couple of touchdowns, Thomas Rawls with an explosive running game. Previous weeks, we've seen Jimmy Graham have 100 yards receiving. There are different guys that will come to their roles better as they go along. It's exactly the Pete Carroll offense that he had at USC when Sark or Lane or Norm Chow prior to that was calling plays.
Yeah,
same style.
Yeah, I think so. And you know, for everything that looked great in this game, let's make no mistake, the number one reason for that was Thomas Rawls. And I understand that a lot of times running back success is just a product of system.
Yeah.
plug and play if you got a good system, right? Denver did it when they introduced the zone blocking system. It didn't matter who was back there. Mike Anderson had like 1,800 yards one year. Like that was, sometimes you can just do that. But what Thomas Rawls did is, in my mind, truly exceptional. And not only was it productive, I think that it's predictive. Because his last 2 starts, he has racked up 424 yards from scrimmage. To contrast that, the best 2-game streak that Marshawn Lynch has ever had in his career is 316. In each of Thomas Rawls' last 2 starts, he has rushed for more yards than Marshawn Lynch ever has. And we're talking about Marshawn Lynch is like on the cusp of a Hall of Famer. Now, we don't know. Can Thomas Rawls do that 16 games a year for 10 years? We don't know.
Yeah.
But right now, what he's doing is special. You can't luck your way into 400 yards in a 2-start stretch. And I think that what we're seeing from Thomas Rawls is a running back whose mentality and skill set is perfectly suited for the way that they block and the way that they run their offense.
Yeah, we haven't been able to see him string together consecutive starts, the 3, 4, and 5. We're going to see that now
we are.
with Marshawn going under the knife today.
So you've probably heard this by the time that this airs, but looks like Marshawn is going to get some surgery for a torn intestinal wall. Buddy of mine, at M. Craig Johnstone, a.k.a. the drunkard on field goals. He's actually a medical professional, believe it or not. And he was saying that that's an injury where a lot of guys can't stand up, much less play a football game. So it's, I think it's good. I think this performance by Thomas Rawls gives them, say, okay, Marshawn, do whatever you gotta do. I think we're gonna be okay for a few weeks.
Yeah.
And by the way, when I compare Thomas Rawls' performance recently to what Marshawn Lynch has done, in no way does that disparage Marshawn Lynch.
No.
He is a Seattle hero forever. He'll go down as one of the great regional icons.
Yeah.
He's one of the few Seattle athletes that's ever had this kind of national pull. He's amazing.
He should never have to buy another beer in this town ever.
And he's like he's drinking beer. Yeah, Marshawn's on that lean.
Yeah.
But it's something where we're just seeing something different. And I would say that right now, and this isn't, I'm not the only one thinking, I know Danny has said it, I think that right now, Thomas Rawls is a better fit for what Seattle is doing offensively than the current incarnation of Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah, I mean, Marshawn hasn't been able to stay healthy this year, so it's almost an unfair battle saying just Thomas Rawls versus that Marshawn Lynch.
Fully healthy Marshawn Lynch, you're going with Marshawn Lynch every time.
If you have last year's Marshawn Lynch being healthy this year, we're going with Marshawn.
But that's not the situation.
No, but that's not the situation. And because of that situation, he needs to take the time off. He had the procedure. He needs to get himself healthy and not just come back, but come back fully ready to go. I will be interested to see how Rawls reacts from playing this game and carrying it, 30 times? And how many touches did he have?
33.
Yeah. So he got a lot of pounding in there. Yeah. How does his body bounce back? He's still young. He's not 29 years old.
Sounds like they gave him the day off today.
Yeah, absolutely. So how does he bounce back for this game versus Pittsburgh? Yep. And then how does he do against Minnesota? And then again.
Yep.
Those are the big things, because we have seen guys be that flash in the pan and really exciting, and then they're not able to ramp it up again. We've seen a couple of different times where he's been able to do it, but will he be able to do it in consecutive weeks? Can he do it over a month straight, essentially?
The only thing that we've seen where he's gotten back-to-back heavy run was when he came in relief of Marshawn against Chicago and then had to start the next week against Detroit. He only had 47 yards against Detroit. Now, who knows, right? Way too small of a sample size to draw any conclusions. But we haven't seen, I've kind of couched my statistics by saying back-to-back starts. Well, they were a month apart, right? With maybe 6 total touches in between. Can he go out against Pittsburgh on Sunday and handle 25 to 30 touches 7 days after 33?
Well,
and that's what's going to be really interesting to see. But I do want to talk about, let's assume just for the sake of the conversation, and I don't think this is outlandish, let's assume that what we're seeing from Thomas Rawls is real and sustainable. Not 255 yards every week, but productive. We can build an offense around this guy type of production.
Yeah.
Let's say that that's what we're talking about. The benefits of that are extraordinarily far-reaching. And I know you got some thoughts on this, but kind of the things that were jumping out to me as I was watching this game and starting to think, okay, what does this mean if we may have seen the last of Marshawn Lynch? And unfortunately, we may have seen the last of Marshawn Lynch as a Seahawk. Not only does it give you someone that can approximate the production, if not surpass the production of Marshawn Lynch, someone who you can trust to pick up his blitz reads, you can trust as a receiver. You know, you hear guys talk about how he asks the right questions, right? Like his head is there. He's the guy we kept waiting for Chris and Michael.
That's exactly what I kept thinking that during the game. When he would catch passes out of the backfield, instantly I was like, all right, we don't have to worry about him coming off of the field on third down.
Yeah.
He can be in there as a running back or a receiver.
He can run right,
or,
he can run left,
or as a
he
pass
can,
blocker. He caught swing passes both ways out of the backfield. The touchdown to the left-hand side was just an unbelievably athletic play to catch that ball, make a cut, and then go. There's nothing in his game that has shown up so far where you're like, okay, that's something that's a glaring area of weakness for him. None of that's there. The pass blocking's there. The run blocking is there on the zone reads when Russell keeps it. Great catching. All of that is there, and then the running is phenomenal. He's also shown different styles of running too. Running out of the I formation also running out of the pistol a little bit in previous games, and then shotgun this time. So he's shown the ability to run out of multiple sets, multiple formations. And again, going back to Darrell Bevell, that allows him to keep that playbook open and not say, all right, these 35 plays are off of the sheet because he's not comfortable doing it.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing, and that's another thing that we never consider when we judge a play is personnel, right? Can I trust the players on the field to do this thing? Okay, there's one player who can't. There go 35 plays, right? Yeah,
but we had a play in college where it was a direct snap from me to the running back. So the Patriots always do it at the goal line. Tom Brady jumps up, fakes like this. Snap has gone over his head out of shotgun, but it's actually a direct snap to the running back, and he goes, I was terrible at those. Like, I would probably get 50% of the time. I'd actually get it to the running back, and the other 50% of the time, he would have to lunge for the ball, which throws the whole timing of the playoff. My offensive coordinator at PLU was a phenomenal coordinator, and he flat told me, he's like, we have to take that out of the playbook because you can't do that play. I was the only person of the 11 on the field that could not do his job on that play. I could snap it shotgun to a quarterback, no issue, but if I had to snap it 3 feet to his right or 3 feet to his left, I just couldn't do it consistently enough. So
these are the things we don't consider.
Yeah, so that right? On me was a single play that was a very good, effective play that we've seen used in the NFL in great situations that had to be taken out of our playbook simply because I could not do that job consistently.
So Thomas Rawls can be trusted to do all of those things on the field. Here's where I think the true value of Thomas Rawls lies. The Seahawks were going to have to spend some draft picks on running backs this year, right? If Thomas Rawls wasn't the guy, Turbin, obviously not the guy, he's gone, been bouncing around. Chris Michael, obviously not the guy, been bouncing around. Thomas Rawls, we liked him in preseason, we heard good things coming out of camp, whatever. None of us were expecting him to be the torch bearer after Lynch. Yeah. So now, instead of having to use however high those picks were going to be and however many picks they were going to be, this is a free day 2 draft pick, basically. Yeah. Thomas Rawls is a free day 2 draft pick at day 4 money. So
for 3 years.
We're talking about not only does Thomas Rawls give you a potential future identity of your offense, he gives you a free high round draft pick. He frees up, if they move on from Marshawn Lynch next year, which I will bet strongly that they will, he frees up a literal $11 million at the position. This is significant stuff. Thomas Rawls is only due $530,000 next year.
Yeah.
This is, so not only is potentially you see very little, maybe no drop off from Lynch production-wise, you are seeing so much capital thrown back to the Seahawks. And it comes back to what we were talking about, how, those first few years, they found their Doug Baldwins and their Cam Chancellors and their Richard Shermans, Jermaine Kearse, these guys who can come in and contribute that cost you nothing in draft capital, right? Well, they haven't been able to do that lately.
Yeah.
This is that guy. He is your free $11 million. He is your free draft pick. And that allows Schneider and Carroll to get back to doing what they do best, which is build that team internally.
Well, and it's very similar to what Russell Wilson what allowed them to do when he had his rookie contract, and he still has it essentially. But being paid as little as he does for a very high-profile position where all of the top quarterbacks are getting the 20 plus to 18 million Tannehill type money. Running backs are all getting a good nickel now as the running game is starting to come back into vogue. If it does allow them to free up that money, that's one position where their cap hit is so minimal they can put additional money into an offensive line or a blocking tight end or
whatever it is that you think the Seahawks need. They now have a bunch of money and a draft pick in order to address that, and that is huge. And the thing is like, I don't know. I mean, Russell Wilson aside, because he's a generational value, right?
Yeah.
Like the Seahawks will probably never have a player that gives them the bang for the buck that Wilson does.
Will the game ever have a player that gives you the bang for the buck that Russell did on the first 3 years?
I mean, not until the next Brady comes along. So it's outside of the quarterback position, Thomas Rawls might be as close as it gets to that, which again we're projecting, but I think there's legit reasons to, and it's really encouraging not only to have a productive player, but one that you can build a Darrell Bevell, Pete Carroll, Tom Cable offense around. I would venture to say the running back is more important in Seattle than almost any other offense in the NFL. Yeah. Potentially the most important. Yeah. So you've got that. You've got your linchpin. But the other thing is, running backs, I mean, the return on your investment in running backs is in those first 3-4 years. That position ages faster than any other position in maybe in sports. Yeah. And so this is cruel and calloused, but it's absolutely going to be the way that the team looks at it. They now have a year and a half of free mileage. Just put as much on this. I mean, technically they've got him for a couple more years, but I'm sure I'll want to renegotiate after next year if he produces the way that we're anticipating. But you can essentially put between now and the end of next year 400 touches on the dude for free before you have to decide if he's worth the extra money. So, and who knows how much the cap will increase by then and what the running back market will be. So this is like a tremendous value for the franchise moving forward.
Well, and I mean, just go back to last year. What would have happened if had Marshawn had these injuries and we have Turbin and Michael in the backfield?
I don't think they're in the Super Bowl.
No, absolutely not. One of them, Christian Michael, can't stay on the field and do his job. Robert Turbin is good, but he's not an every down back. And he's since bounced from Cleveland to Dallas. So
I think he just took Christian Michael's spot.
He did. Yeah, he did take Michael's spot. So Lynch has been this unbelievable force for Seattle, and he might come back from this injury. His legs might be fresh from getting a month off, get his body healed, and we might see the Marshawn that we saw in the San Francisco game earlier this year down there, where he's just fresh, he's ready to go.
Well, they don't have to rush him back.
Well, that's exactly it. That's where I was leading to. Is if Rawls is running well, and that allows Marshawn to have an extra week or two to get his total body ready to go. That's exciting.
I just vultured your touchdown.
No, that's totally fine, because it gives us the opportunity to have a backfield, and again, a Bo Jackson, Marcus Allen, when the Raiders had them, which is so dynamic, where you're like, wow, there's
no question Rawls will be in the rotation if and when
it will be more than the one carry he got versus Carolina type of stuff.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I think that what we're seeing is finally a kind of transition into whatever is next. I'll be honest, I've kind of worried that whenever this downfall happens for the Seahawks, and it's going to happen, unless Pete Carroll sticks around for another 10 years and is able to really go Belichick on this, teams that have 3-4 year runs like this,
Yeah.
it falls off and falls off hard. For me, the catalyst for that that I was most worried about was Marshawn Lynch, and it seems like for the first time in the last 3 years as a Seahawks fan, I'm seeing a legitimacy to the post Lynch Seahawks. Probably the true identity of this team in the Pete Carroll era has been their defense, and this year they have not been as good as what may have been the greatest defensive 3-year stretch in history relative to league performance. What did you see from them in this game? Because what I saw was not a knockout by any stretch. It was sort of they got them in a hammerlock and held them there all game.
Yeah, other than San Francisco with that drive right before half.
Oh, so gross. I don't want to talk about it.
And we really kind of shot ourselves in the foot because we were up 20-0. It's 3rd and 12 or whatever. We call timeout with 1:03 to go. Ball's in about the 20-yard line. We don't call the timeout. San Francisco looks as like they're going to let the clock run down and punt the ball back to us. But Pete wanted to get some more points, and with the way our defense had been playing and getting off the field, and the way our offense had been moving the ball and scoring touchdowns, that's a very good play by Pete.
I would have been fine if they stayed in their base defense and actually played defense.
Yeah,
but you called the timeout and then switched.
Yeah, I mean, the cushion we had, the receivers had, was very large. That's what was frustrating about it, because what had been working up to that point, it felt like we went away from schematically. San Fran does a nice job. Blaine Gabbert, Tyrann Mathieu came out today and said San Francisco's offense is much tougher to defend for and prepare for than it was with Colin Kaepernick. And you could see that. I mean,
sure.
Blaine Gabbert flamed out in Jacksonville. He's looked fairly decent for San Francisco since he's taken over.
But still, you make Blaine Gabbert beat you in
that's
that
exactly it. And make them complete 8-yard passes with 2 timeouts and the clock running and go the length of the field. Don't let them get chunk yardage. And they chunk yardaged us again. That was very frustrating. Other than that drive, it felt like Big Brother and Little Brother in a backyard fight where Big Brother has his hand on Little Brother's head and Little Brother's swinging away, but he ain't getting close.
Yeah.
And so that's what it felt like the whole time in that game. So until, again, and this is something we've talked about in previous weeks, until Seattle comes out and beats a good opponent, and they have a good opponent on the schedule this week and next week against Minnesota, Seahawk fans aren't going to start feeling confident and calming them. This is when we need our defense, which has been the backbone of the Pete Carroll teams, to really step up and start putting strangleholds on people. And against a diverse offense and an explosive offense like Pittsburgh, a stranglehold might be 20 points. It might not be a 3-point game. That is an explosive, dynamic, really mess with you offense. And remember, not too long ago, Todd Haley, the offensive coordinator of Pittsburgh, was in the same Darrell Bevell position. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Snoop Lyon's calling for his firing, all of that. And now all of a sudden they have one of the most explosive offense in the game, and he's a great coordinator. So how fickle fans are. But this is an offense that is going to pose problems for Seattle's defense all game long. Ben Roethlisberger, whether you like him or hate him, I'm not a Ben fan, is a very good quarterback. I would like us to get him on the ground a few times, because it seems to me like when he hits the ground, he ends up leaving the field on a cart. And that would be really nice to make one of those backup quarterbacks come back in. But their receivers are dangerous. Their running game has been very good this year. After Le'Veon Bell goes out injured, you really think, can D'Angelo really do this? He gets 20 touches a game. He's been very good.
D'Angelo Williams isn't as old as his age for running back. He has split carries his entire career.
Exactly.
You know, he and Jonathan Stewart are still viable NFL running backs this late into their career, because neither of them, they got to get 150 to 180 touches each and be fresh for all of those for years. And so we saw during Le'Veon Bell's suspension in the first 2 games, I think D'Angelo Williams had over 200 yards rushing in those 2 games. So he showed that he can handle the offense. He's obviously a very adept receiver and blocker and can do all. He actually reminds me of Marshawn Lynch in a lot of ways. The drop-off from Le'Veon Bell to D'Angelo Williams, it's a different skill set. It's almost kind of a more exaggerated Thomas Rawls, Marshawn Lynch type of deal. But D'Angelo can bring it. And their ability, Pittsburgh is so good on first down. They are so good on first down.
Mm-hmm.
They trust their skill position players that someone is going to win their battle.
Yep.
And so they are not afraid to throw any route on the tree on first down. They're
Yep.
not afraid to run any play in the playbook on first down because it's something where they have such superlative talent on offense. And I'm really excited for this game because I think that in a lot of ways this is going to be one of the truest tests for the type of Seahawks team that we can expect to see moving forward. I love Pittsburgh's offense. I want to put it out there. I love watching. They're my favorite offense to watch.
Yeah.
And the number one reason is Antonio Brown. I think that he's one of the most special players the NFL's ever seen. To be the hands-down most productive receiver in the NFL for a 2-year stretch with his size is amazing. And so Seattle hasn't beaten a good quarterback yet this year.
No.
They've beaten a bunch of bad quarterbacks. They haven't beaten a good one. And Pittsburgh has been really, really good. How do you see the Seahawks defense being able to match up against not just D'Angelo Williams and Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown? I mean, we're already talking about 3 terrific talents.
Yeah.
Martavis Bryant,
Yeah.
right? You talk Heath Miller is still there. Marcus Wheaton. I mean, if Ben Roethlisberger, for me, it's the pass rush because Ben Roethlisberger has a chance to get to read second, third read all game long. I think Pittsburgh wins this one.
We have to get there with 4. We have to get pressure with 4. We have to get there fast. I think the other thing we have to do is not only just getting pressure around the ends, we have to get pressure up the middle. Ben Roethlisberger is a big, tall quarterback who steps up in the pocket a lot. If we can get into his foot traffic area when he's trying to throw and he becomes an arm thrower, I think that will probably slow down some of the deep passes from him. I also think one of the things that Seattle is going to do, it'll be interesting, and next time we do this podcast, to see how Seattle played defense versus the Arizona Cardinals versus the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Super similar.
So what are they going to do? Are they going to put Sherman on the side, or are they going to have Sherman covering somebody specifically?
You guys know I like Kerry Williams, but I don't want, and I do. I like Kerry Williams. I think he's been okay. I do not want to see him on Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
I don't.
No, and so it'll be interesting to see if Seattle is going to be, and Pete Carroll is stubborn in a good way, and that his defense is his defense, and they're going to run his defense, and they'll do tweaks and variations to it, but they're not going to do anything exotic. Even going back to the Super Bowl versus Denver, we were fairly simple with that. We just executed it very well.
Yeah.
Can this team get to the point where it executes that well for this game?
And the thing is, the talent is there. Like that's the beauty of having so much individual talent is that you don't have to get exotic. You don't have to be Todd Bowles to have success or Rex Ryan and always try and catch the offense guessing. You can just be better and play your game. But the Seahawks haven't been able to do that for an entirety of a game against a good quarterback yet. Do you think that they'll be able to do this? Because I think Pittsburgh is, in the same way that Arizona is uniquely built to beat a defense like Seattle, I think Pittsburgh is uniquely built. A quarterback who can throw on the move, who doesn't have to be on time or on his spot to make his throws, receivers who can beat you individually, a running back that if you decide to bring in that extra defender, he will beat you for doing that. So can Seattle go with a base package and beat the Steelers?
Can the Seattle run a base 4-3 defense and beat the Steelers? No.
Okay.
No.
So what do they have to do then?
We're going to see extra DBs in the game, I really feel. But we have to be able to stop the run with 7 guys in the box. I mean, if Cam has to come up all game long to stop the run, we're going to be in a world of hurt because they're going to be gashing us deep. One of the things that Bill Belichick not always has done, but has done, that it's one of my favorite defensive strategies, and Seattle won't do this. Pete Carroll runs his defense, and he's confident in his defense, and I love that about him. Know what your strengths are, know who you are, and don't deviate it. Don't try to be somebody that you're not. Bill Belichick will sometimes put his 3rd and 4th cornerback on a team's first receiver and double him to take it out. He'll then take his best cornerback and put it on the offense's number 2 receiver and his number 2 cornerback and put it on the team's 3rd receiver. So he has a matchup advantage at all of those. He has his best cornerback on their second best receiver.
It's almost like matching up your starting rotation in a baseball playoff series.
It's exactly what it is.
We'll spot you your number one receiver, or your number one pitcher.
Yeah.
Have the better matchup, but we will have a better matchup in every other game.
That's exactly it.
And
it's one of those strategies that I've always just thought, that's just damn cool. I'd love to see Seattle do that because they have the people to be able to do that with the Burley, Jeremy Lane coming off, Kerry Williams, Richard Sherman, but they don't do that. Yeah. That's not who they are. Will this be, and again, let's go back to the Cincinnati game, where Richard Sherman was staying on his side until A.J. Green beat him deep for the second time, and we got lucky that there was a holding on the offensive lineman, and then at that point it was Richards following A.J. all day long.
Yeah, right.
So is it going to be a strategy like that? Versus the Niners, we saw him go to Torrey Smith pretty much the whole time, both games, where Richard was just, that's his guy. So Seattle, I think with Jeremy Lane adds an extra wrinkle to this. Marcus Burley has been playing very well coming back from the thumb surgery. We need to pick some balls off. We need to stop dropping these possible interceptions and actually hold on to them. We've dropped so many effing interceptions, it's ridiculous. We've had so many opportunities. KJ had one go right through his hands. Looked like it hit him in the stomach. We had Earl and Carey over top where... Sherm's had balls in his hands. We've got to pick these balls off. We have to be positive in the turnover ratio. And again, we've been positive in the turnover ratio this year and lost all those games. This is one of those games where we have to be able to get them off of the field from through quick play. So it's those turnovers that get them off the field.
I think one of the things that's going to be most important in defending Pittsburgh is actually going to be what the offense does.
Yep.
Because if the Steelers run 65 or more plays, they're going to win.
Yeah.
The Seahawks were able to hold the 49ers to 52 plays. 49ers could have had 80 plays. They weren't going to beat the Seahawks in that game. But Pittsburgh is so explosive. Okay, Ben Roethlisberger has played, 5 games this year? 6 maybe? Mm-hmm. He leads the NFL in completions over 30 yards. They don't need much. He is so much better. That team is so much better at throwing the ball down the field than anyone else in the NFL. It is not close. Maybe Arizona's close, but that's it. Yeah. If you give them enough plays, I don't care who the defense is, they're going to hit on some of them.
Well, it's just like Arizona. We gave them far too many plays.
Way too many plays.
Because we couldn't get out of our own way with penalties. And going back to your point, and back to the very beginning of the show, what was made Seattle successful is they got out of their own damn way in this game. And they just did what they do, and they don't screw it up. We didn't have egregious penalties that killed drives. If we can do that in this game, we're going to have a great opportunity to win. If we do the dumb stuff, if we have a first half like we did against Arizona, we're probably not going to have a third quarter like we did against them. Yeah. That game will be over.
Oh, yeah. If they have a first half like they did against Arizona, I might watch something else in the second half because Pittsburgh will bury them. Yeah. I think they're that good. I picked before the season Pittsburgh to come out of the AFC and go to the Super Bowl. I think they're excellent because the defense is much improved on top of everything else that we've been talking about. Looking a little bit past that, just to kind of wrap up, you mentioned this 2-game stretch between Pittsburgh and Minnesota. The Seahawks now, according to Football Outsiders, have a playoff probability of over 50% for the first time in about 6 weeks.
Okay.
I think that has as much to do with, they're rated 5th overall in DVOA, which, is significant. DVOA still sees them as an elite team, despite their record. But the middle of the NFL is extremely soft. There are 16 teams, Danny told me this day, literally half the league, 16 teams have either 4 or 5 wins right now. And it's a really soft middle tier. Yeah. So the teams they're chasing are Atlanta, who they won't play, and Minnesota. By the way, those two teams are playing each other this week, and we could spend 15 minutes on the implications. But I think that we'll know by the end of these next 2 games if this team has a legit shot or not. There's a very good chance, though, that Seattle is controlling their own destiny after these 2 games.
Really, if they win throughout, they are in control of their destiny from here on out.
Sure.
They win, they're in.
They're probably not getting to the playoffs. I don't think they're anything besides a wild card this year.
No, I don't either. I don't.
Barring injury to Carson Palmer.
That's the only reason Seattle gets wins the division as Carson goes down. And quite honestly, Carson would have to go down, and some more other stuff would have to go down for them at this point. They are in control of their own destiny to get in the playoffs, and then as soon as you get in the playoffs, it's a crapshoot for whoever can do it. And if you have a running game and you have a defense, those two things typically travel, especially in January.
You're right.
That gives them a great possibility, not a probability, but a possibility of continuing to do what they've done. These are the games that they have to win. They have to start beating these good quarterbacks. And if it's a 19-18 victory or it's a 27-20, who cares? This is a game that we have to win for no other reason. And again, I think this comes back to Pete's mentality of no game is bigger than the other. Every week is a championship week. That kind of mindset is very good for these type of games because you're not viewing it as being more than what last week was or the previous week was or what the Super Bowl was of last year. They're just all the same. This is who our opponent is. These are the things that they do really well. These are the things we think we can counter them with. Let's go play for 60 minutes and shake hands at the end and see who's the better team.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. There's no more margin for error for the Seahawks. No more time to figure things out. They need to start being the better team every Sunday. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And we'll be back next week to talk about what happens. Look forward to that Minnesota Viking game. So for Matt, I want to say thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.